RNG using very few props compared to most teams in their intro video, and that will help me build them as a no-nonsense team. Lee, Kylin and Lise, the three players. Lee we're very familiar with in Western World Grandmasters in World Championships and Championship events. But the other two we haven't seen so much of, but what we have seen so far, I have been very impressed indeed with Lise. One of my favourite players to keep an eye on, I think, in this whole event. Yueying we have seen as well before, but he has been also very solid in this event. And a lot of stake here. 7 and 4, chance to go to 8 and 4 for RNG, chance to go to 7 and 5 for Lucky Future, and there is not much separation, but it's starting to appear at the top, with IG going to 8 and 4 earlier today. Have a good old-fashioned Druid mirror, and from a caster's perspective, I hope that's the only mirror we get during this broadcast, because I think I'm still recovering from Bunny Hopper versus XHX 2 weeks ago and their Priest mirror. Similar lineups, but different bans. Yueying choosing to ban the Demon Hunter, Lise banning the Warrior. And we're starting with a Druid mirror again. I think it's because Druid is a safe open. Remember, this isn't Conquest where what you pick is basically random. There is method in the madness in your opening pick. And Druid isn't really a counter. It's not really counterable. Yes, it has favourables and unfavourables, but it kind of has a low ceiling on percentage and a very high floor, so all of its matchups are in quite a narrow range, so you can open with it, see what your opponent plays. If you lose, you can counter that. If you win, well, then you get a free go. And we are seeing Druid mirrors open up a lot of these matches. And the problem with Druid mirrors is this. The first person to play a swarm of glowflies gets into a fantastic spot. And Lise is in a really troublesome spot here. He can kill off one of these, but is it really worth his time? I think he's better off, and he's agreeing, just going ahead with it, hoping he's not dead, which is a thing that can happen. 5/6 is a 30, so double Savage Draw and Bosh, you're dead. But if he picks up, say, a Mount Seller now, he would have 3 0 mana cards to go with that. Could begin to fight back, especially as 2 of them are the Ironbarks that would keep him well defended, or at least fairly well defended. But that's not what he needed to see. That's an absolute whiff, and now he is going to have to take care of proceedings. We can see the Savage Roar is 20 of just from the minions alone, 3 more from the face damage, 4 over lethal, so Lise probably going to have to do something here. He is going to go digging. He decided that if he wasn't dead last turn, maybe he's not dead next turn. But you know your fate when you're in this position. Does he really want to play Power of the Wild and then double Ironbark it? Maybe he could. He's got the Moonfires to back that up if he does pick up. Maybe he can play 1 Ironbark. That wouldn't be enough to prevent a lethal through Savage Draw, I don't think. There would be, what, 16, 19 available. But with the healing as well from the armour. 25 required, we've already done the count, it's 23 available. Not quite lethal. 1 more from the Moonfire is 24. I better have counted this right, or for the first time ever, I'm going to look a little bit silly. Interestingly though, I think he has to Savage Draw here and get through this, so he sets up lethal for next turn, but it's actually remarkably annoying. If you don't deliver lethal as Druid, you can lose the game. There's no swipe in modern Druid, so you do have to get all the damage done the old-fashioned way, apart from Moonfire, and in some very rare instances, Malygos Moonfire, or a Malygos generated. But yeah, at least now looks like it's going to come to an end. Does manage to get down his Ysera. Remove a minion. He's going to Iron Bark. This was the plan from last turn. Don't die, then don't die again. Double Bog Beam is 6. 8, 10, 12, 14. So he can kill this off. He can't because he's only on 6 mana. I was thinking he was on 7. I mean, he can, but then he can't fungal. He can't hero power either, so he can't even kill it exactly. So he's going to have to fungal. Worry about the problem next turn, unless he can pick up something to help. Power of the Wild is something to help. Will he want to save that, though? Just needs to get 1 damage through. How hard can it be? As we can see, very hard. Interesting to see how he goes about this. Second Soul of the Forest. Or the Overgrowth. Quite a lot of decisions to make here if he plays the Overgrowth. Soul makes sense though. This actually gives him more minions going forward. Knows that there's no way for Lys to deal with this. So Lys is just going to have to hope to hit. An overflow in his hand would be nice. Although he can draw 2 cards. There's so few dragons. I still haven't looked up the name of the 7/7, but there's Emerald Explorer and 7/7 Dragon Man are the only 2 that I can think of with Taunt. And he needs some of that right now. Look at his Power of the Wild waiting to turn all of these treants into 3/3s. And even I can do the lethal maths on that. It's lethal. By a lot. Crystal Power Healing Face. Incoming. Oh, he's hit the Mount Seller. Is it too late? Most likely it is. He hasn't even got a chance to mess around. He's got to power his face, I think. Yeah, he can see lethal on board, so he's got to at least get to 6. And that's just about whether he plays Power of the Wild or whether he hero powers to save 1 extra. Which was a harder decision, because both of them give him basically 1 extra health. I get a Crystal Power to heal it. Interesting, because now he's dead to Moonfire, but it does protect his minion more. We can see he's dead anyway, just in case you're wondering why I haven't spotted that. Okay, he works with the hero power, so he's not dead to Moonfire. This is perfect play. This is really good. This is why I like watching Lys play. He has very, very solid understanding of Hearthstone and very good mechanics. He just doesn't seem to be flustered by anything. And this game is something that would fluster me. I mean, Druid mirrors, when you lose them, always feel like there was nothing you could do. I think he did well there. And pretty much unflinching. Goes 1-0 behind. Queues up the Warrior, and this makes me happy. Because I see Warrior as pretty much the closest thing there is as a counter to Druid. Demon Hunter is also very, very good. And not everybody agrees, but that's the great thing with modern Hearthstone. The decks have such comeback mechanics that people often don't agree. Well, they both have the start they're looking for here. Lys is able to put on early pressure with the Corsair Cash, and Yueying's going to be able to ramp into an early Mount Seller. Choosing to blow this up because if there is a rampage, you lose the game as the Druid. You can't face a 5-6 minion for 4 turns or 3 turns while you set up your stuff. You just can't do it. But it never feels too bad as the Warrior when your opponent does this. First of all, he hasn't got the rampage, which is pretty awesome for him. But also, he knows that a Mount Seller now will be a lot easier to deal with. Very difficult for a Warrior to kill off the Mount Seller and her friends. Not impossible by any means, but oddly enough, Warrior kind of needs its resources. If it runs out of minions, it runs out of card draw, it runs out of value. So it kind of has to defend its hand until it's ready to launch into action. And if a Mount Seller forces it to launch into action, then it's not happy. It doesn't get to do what it wants to do. Yueying now with a decision whether he wants to play one Power of the Wild. And he could play both, actually. Yeah, you can't play one, you have to play both. Because otherwise the one just dies to the weapon. If you play both, you have a 3-2 available, which will trade into most Warrior things. But he decides it's a reach, and I agree, but it's definitely good to see him just making sure of things. At least not panicking. Going for a big turn soon. Probably will drop a Sky Raider. No real reason not to develop it to the board. There's enough good things you can hit that you want out there. Like Henchclan Burglar or something, just to get some more damage down next turn. He's going to have another 1-drop in his hand next turn after another swing, I believe. Let me just check the build. For some reason, Warrior builds... And I'm starting to think it's my fault. Don't quite add up. Yeah, this is the... We've seen the Tolvir. This is just straight up Tolvir version. I'm actually just getting the Cork on and getting that damage in. Savage Roar is a very strong option here for Yueying. I'm surprised he's... Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. He's a thoughtful player, but I'm surprised he's even a decision here. This is just Savage Roar, kill this thing. Question is, will the Savage Roar ever be used to kill Lys with? When he makes the Mount Seller board? It is possible. But it's unlikely. We'll be looking at the options that are coming in his deck. Is he going to draw, for instance, a Bog Beam? Is he going to draw Iron Bark? How many of those options are good for him? How many ways has he got of getting rid of this if he gets one of the 2 Rush minions from the Mount Seller next turn? Griffin being one of them. Apex Predator being the other. How much helps? So, going through all of the thought processes and then killing it off. And there's no reason not to vote. You're playing for your team, you're playing for your personal pride, you're playing for your personal chance at reaching the World Championships. So yeah, I'm always for these players taking their time. And now Lys is going to explode into action. Time is up. Gotta have stuff on the board at the end of this turn. Yueying's had to do it the slow way with only 1 wild growth, which is slow by Druid standards. No fungal and no overgrowth. But does now Lys, I think, have to occupy the board. You're expecting stuff to get bog beamed, so we might see him do some weird things here, but you need to be in a position where you can fire through the Druid. This is interesting, but I like it. This is setting up for next turn. Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, Battle Rage is one option. Also, Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, and Mercenaries to copy that Captain would be a lot of damage. And Yueying, trying to work out if he's dead. That's what he's doing. He's facing down 10. It's unlikely that Lys has 7 on board. The reason that matters is maybe he can play this Glowfly Swarm to buy some time. But does it really matter? Yes, it does, because he can buff it with Power of the Wild. And the 3/3s would be pretty useful right now. Would they be more useful than putting a Mount Seller down that just dies? I think they would. It's only 4 3/3s, but if Yueying doesn't die, at least he has something to go for next turn. Then maybe he draws, say, another Innovate and he gets to Power of the Wild with the Mount Seller. You know, I like this. He's challenging what's going on. It's not a lot. Now, can at least just clear sensibly here. Eyes always go to the bomb wrangler in these situations, but he may just not need to. Curious to see how he approaches it. Putting 1 damage onto everything would help him clear a lot if he wants to trade. If he's looking at the green skin. Just to buff the Sky Raiders up to 3/2s. Well, it doesn't buff them. The opposing minions go to 3/2, so the Sky Raiders can trade into them. But he sort of splits the difference. And Yueying is able to prevent lethal, but it's not the way forward. I think this is better. Quite a decent chance of hitting either rush or taunt, so this made sense. Did roll pretty well though. And now it's up to Lease to finish this off. He's got to kill that Mount Seller and then he'll win the game. He doesn't know if that last card is Overflow, but he knows it's a top decked card, so it probably is not. But he doesn't want an Ironbark to happen here. So surely this is the turn where he chooses to draw some cards. With Risky Skipper's shenanigans. Bomb Wrangler shenanigans also an option here. Tend to either kill the opponent or kill the things you're trying to remove. Making space, so it looks like he's going to mercenaries the Wrangler, I want to say. Make a lot more bombs. And give his opponent 1 turn to get things done. Oh, he hits the Mount Seller anyway. It was always an option. And now that's the game. It's going to be 1 apiece. And this might rumble on for a little while. I don't think it will, but it might do. Because next turn, Battle Rage just ends everything. And as you can see, Yueying can put up no defense. It's going to be 1 game apiece. And both of the Druids have been eliminated, so it's going to be Warrior and Priest versus Demon Hunter and Priest. And the Priest Mirror gets 1 step closer. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait. Well, he knows it's lethal. It's more than I do. Yep, 7 and 2. Turns out that's lethal. Who knew? At least makes it 1 apiece. And now Yueying has one of the easier decisions you will see in Last Hero Standing. Does he want to play his Demon Hunter, which is massively unfavoured, or his Priest, which is at least slightly favoured, and possibly more, as this is not the greenskin version of the Warrior, the version that makes it a bit easier because you get Deathwing for an additional 12 attack minion to give them problems with, and your greenskin and weapon alone do some damage too. Does have a good hand here, at least, though. He has the Corsair Cash and the double Battle Rage. He's going to be able to get through this deck pretty rapidly. And if he wins this, he'll be up against the Demon Hunter, which is a good matchup for the Warrior. However, Yueying actually has tough decisions to make already. He can just start to populate the board. But he knows that the first minion he plays will get killed by a weapon. He is going to play the Sethek. I feel this is an unusual choice. It's going to absorb weapon damage, which maybe he's fine with. But I have seen players in this matchup try to preserve their Sethek just a little bit longer, because it can just generate enough value for you to win the whole game. That said, it protects his face, and he has a pretty solid looking curve available to him for now. I wanted to do it this way to get back the Sethek and defend another 3. Oh yeah, this is causing Lys a lot of aggravation. Nice use of the Psycho Pump there. And it's not that Lys can't deal with it, it's just stress. You want to keep the pressure on the priest consistently. Force the priest to have more removal, force them to heal, force them to mess around with their mana. You don't want to be constantly running at the priest's pace. It's not that he can't deal with it, I want to stress that. And it's not that these things are going to kill him either. These are easy to remove for a warrior. Warrior is designed to get rid of boards almost exactly like this. The issue is that it's Yueying doing the pressing, and it's early in the game. This is not the time when the priest is the presser. Shadow Madness? And let's go allow him to get a bomb on his side as well if he wants it. Does he have the read that there is no risky skipper from the way the last few turns have been played? I don't think he can quite have that read, but maybe he does. Or maybe he has that feel. Yeah, he's going to go wide. That's why I was asking this question. He can now just have a board of nonsense minions if he feels they're not going to get wiped out by a skipper. And this is just added hassle for the warrior to have to go through. Time to battle rage for 2, I think. You hate to see it. This hand is so grim. I guess the other option... I wonder how Lys will play this actually. He can switch to Ankar immediately if he thinks this is an issue. Like, the minions on the board aren't a pressing issue, but the ones next turn could be. So he is going to play the value game. You do need some value against Priest. It's not just a total flat foot race. And Lys can play the slower game. Try and get some semblance of board. Chip away damage and go for a big combo kill. So he's finally dealt with this lot. Being down to 18 is a hassle, but it's not a problem. The priest almost never wins this via the damage option. It usually wins by the warrior just running out of ways to win. Sometimes the priest will make a massive board over the space of 2 turns and do 25 damage or something ridiculous in 1 turn. Oh, this is horrid. Just doing whatever he can to get some semblance, but Apotheosis means that if Yueying ever sticks anything, he should win the game, because the Apotheosis fight back is very real, usually. As it stands though, he's in such a good spot. He's in no hurry to Apotheosis, because you use that to heal back up to 30 with, and he's on 30, so just going to take care of the board for now. Finally gets his anchor installed. Finally going to get some damage into the opponent. And that has taken him way too long. It's not over by any means. Opportunities to do damage. But this is a second bomb wrangler, so that's one of the options gone. You need to try to just launch a flurry of bombs, maybe do 10 damage or 8 damage with those. So Yueying has to decide if he wants to try and finish this now with the Kronks. Normally, it's a little bit awkward getting your Galakron down as a priest. Level 2 Galakron, so he wouldn't do it now anyway. I imagine he'd wait one more turn to kill off 2 minions at once. So yeah, Kronks. Kronks, Galakron, Morazon. Already things he can do. How does the warrior deal with this? Oh, this is nice. Now the Least does have a route to at least having a game of Hearthstone. I mean, I say that like it's an amazing thing, but it's kind of all he's got. Oh. See how this works out. This is the push he's been waiting for. He has been very, very patient in both of his games to get these pushes. Drawing the card first so the Battle Rage doesn't pick up a card that he could have not messed around with. Very, very solid. And now got some ways back into it. This is why damage tends not to matter. The Armorsmith route is irritating. Any point now, the Grommash and the Inner Rage. 12 damage available. So, from nowhere, Yueying has a little bit of pressure to worry about. I say worry about. Constantly has to be careful, especially when the mana gets to 9, because 9 mana is when Korkon Elite, Inner Rage, Mercenaries becomes possible. You'll probably hear me clicking to check if it is a double Korkon build. That happens less in China than it did in Grandmasters, but yes. As I understand it, at least, this is a double Korkon build. One already been used. Has one already been used? I don't think it has. I may have watched too many Warrior games. Shadow Madness into generating another bomb. You will see Yueying. We've seen he's a slowish player anyway. We'll see him slow down even more now. That's correct form when playing against Warrior. You really need to be on top of what is the absolute most my opponent can do. But with this board, Lys might be the one having to ask those questions. It's like having all these lovely cards available, but if your opponent's going to kill you, it doesn't help much. Warrior just doesn't like these high health minions at all. If Apotheosis goes on that War Maul, it's just the end of the game. It never dies. And Lys may have to seriously consider killing this with his Grommash Inner Rage combo, which effectively concedes the game. So if it concedes the game, you're going to look for anything else to try and make it work. But the one step above conceding the game is not actually losing the game. So if it comes to it, you'll have to do that. Now, he's not doing that if he attacks with a bomb first, because he'd want the bomb to have a chance of taking out the lifesteal minion. So he is doing something else. Still not tempted. So he's definitely saving up for sensible things. Remember, he can't see the Apotheosis that I can see. That makes a big difference. If he could see it, he would have to trade. But now this never dies. Always as a caster use words like never, because that guarantees that horrible things are going to happen and you're going to look incredibly silly. Yueying now needs to consider the implications of the Warrior with a Sethek. They do have Rampage and Inner Rage to target their minions with. So much as he wants to develop this turn, he's got a slightly awkward turn. He wants to play a 5, a 2 and another 2, which is 9, which is not how numbers work. Maybe he just foregoes the Apotheosis this turn, develops his Shield of Galakron, penances out the Sethek, and moves on with his life. Seems reasonable. Okay. Valued getting the 6 health back above that. That's fair enough. Just wants it out of range completely. Again, I'd probably have penanced. It doesn't really matter, let's face it. At least struggling to remain in the game at all. I guess anytime you can kill something with a minion, you just do, because then you've still got the removal spell in hand for a rainy day. Lethal is still set up the way he did it. And Yueying looking to go 2-0, which sounds like I'm surprised. I'm not surprised at the fact that Priest is going to beat Warrior. I'm surprised that the nature of it, how this worked out. And it goes back to that really great play at the start where he was willing to coin Psychopump just to get back a Sethek that he was willing to dump on turn 2 into a known danger, knowing that Liss was going to kill it, realising how the game was going to unfold from that point, and that forced Liss to just waste his whole early game. And I'm talking like it's over. I guess I shouldn't be. That huge amount of armor gain is a big deal. But like I've said before, it's not really the armor gain that matters too much. Okay, I was super confused there. Most people do their removal spells first, then attack. I don't know why that is. That's just how it looks. So the second he attacked and didn't remove, I'm like, what? What are you doing? You're going to heal your 6/9 and then leave up a 2/1 instead of a 1/1? No, obviously not. Right, Liss. 32 damage required. He does have a giant amount of damage available to him should he draw a Korkron. He'll be able to get 18 damage in one go with Korkron, Inner Rage, Rampage, and the Mercenaries. And that's why you can't quite write this game off. Because 18 damage, you know, it's over half of Yueying's available health, and if somehow Liss can generate a way to get some chip damage in, maybe he can still get this done. And it's well worth him trying to get it done because he gets the Demon Hunter matchup as the last match, or last game, if he does that. So it doesn't need to be very likely at all for him to want to do this. If you wonder why he's giving away so much armor, it's because he has to kill these. Yueying has a risky skipper in play, which next turn would generate 1 million armor, and if it's not out of range now, another 10 armor would definitely have put it out of range. As it is, I think it's probably out of range now. I think playing Galakron allows him so much damage. It takes away nearly half of Liss's health total. That's just the overall casual glance. There's other things he can do as well. But with Kronk's available, I think he can weapon swing. Normally you'd save the weapon here, but I think the weapon swing might set up lethal. I'm going to let him count that. Oh, not swinging with a weapon is still lethal setup, but yeah. With Kronk's, with another weapon, that's 10 from hand available next turn if you count the weapon as hand. Plus all the minions. And despite the fact that Liss did pick up the Korkron Elite, he hasn't managed to do anything. And Yueying has played a very tidy game of Hearthstone here to take a 2-1 lead. An important 2-1 lead. I think 7-5 with 6 matches to go. So the worst you could do is 7-11. it starts to get to the point where they might be safe. Not quite, but with it being such a cluster, 7-11 is not going to be too far off being safe in its own right. So it's a big deal to get to 7 wins. 8's probably the safety zone. Only 2 teams don't get into the playoffs. Obviously coming top 2 is important. You get that first round bye. And it's an important first round bye because you get into a double elimination tournament for the top 4. Whereas places 3, 4, 5, 6 have to play single elimination in the playoffs. And that's quite obviously awkward. Well, Yueying does stay alive, at least stays alive on 1, but Yueying has the Kronks, and there is that 2-1. That was a really nice game. I enjoyed that one a lot. So Yueying now with the Priest advantage, and it goes into every caster's favourite, and it is 2 slower players as well, so hold tight, this might be a while. It's a Priest mirror. And there's so much to say about this, but it's a good job there's a lot to say about Priest mirrors because they go on forever sometimes. Bunny Hopper and XHX. Bunny Hopper was 2-0 up after 1 hour of gameplay. That's not 1 hour of screen time. Screen time obviously longer because people like myself have to get their good faces on the screen. And it went 2 more hours including a Priest mirror. That's how long Priest games can be. And for all the stick we give Bunny Hopper for being a slower player, these 2 aren't quick. This could take a very long time. So, how do you go about winning the Priest mirror? Well, sometimes one of the players just kills the other one. And that's what Yueying is going for here. Sometimes just nonsense happens and one of the players just can't get to stay on the board. Usually that involves like a grave rune or something, just makes it really difficult. More regularly it's about value. Getting your Galacon down first is a big deal in that regard, because then you get your hero power. Also your mana management is a big deal in that regard, and your hand size management. It gets very difficult to empty that hand and get all the value you can from the Galacon, which is what you want. So what Yueying here is doing at the moment is kind of approaching both of those at the same time, giving himself a chance to get the crazy easy victory, but also setting up to not have too many cards in hand should he pick up Galacon. And we might see a Thought Steal in a moment as well, to try and hit his opponent's Galacon. Thought Steal obviously pretty powerful these days, 2 mana for 2 cards, as long as the cards are both useful, which they usually are. The times it used to be weak was against, say, a warrior that relied on weapon buffs, and you haven't got a weapon, so your buff doesn't exist. But Yueying is getting this Sethek to great use. And it's a 4/6 Sethek. The meme stands. There's only Time Rip, which luckily for Liz he has, that can really deal with 4 attack minions. We see players in Priest mirrors still trying to have 4 attack minions. It does play around Shadow Word Death. It plays around a generated Shadow Word Pain. The health is big enough that can't be breathed away. And yeah, it forces out things you don't want forced out. And look at this, another 4 attack minion. And Yueying, who's been playing incredibly slowly and carefully today, and well, so you know, let's be nice, plays instantly on this turn. Still a long way to go. It might look like he's getting things done, but what he's getting done isn't so much the opportunity to win immediately. It's this constant pressure you get in these situations in Priest mirrors where the player on the back foot stays on the back foot for 10, 12 turns, constantly doing enough to not die and constantly having to do it every turn. And you tend to find in those games that the player on the back foot just loses in the end. If you want me to explain the methodology of the losing, it's not that easy. They just never get to build a board. They end up with a cluttery hand and they end up having no removal left. Whereas the person attacking, all they have to do is throw out unspecified minion number 26 or something. It's much easier to do that. Yueying's just gone super wide now. This might just end. Well, at least doing kind of what I was saying a moment ago, okay? This is the defender sadness. It's not a problem getting rid of this stuff. The problem is that he has no choices available to him. Like, I can see how to play this Hearthstone turn. It's very straightforward. But how do you outplay somebody if you have no choices, if they're taken away from you? Yueying has a chance to... Yeah, he has a chance to get his Galakond out now. But maybe he wants to dump some cards first and continue this attack a little bit. First of all, you get no value from the Galakond immediately, which is not that much of an issue. But having somewhere to store the cards when you use the hero power, you get some nonsense 5 or 6 drop that you don't really want to use, but you do want in your hand for later. Again, when you get into fatigue in this, you know, having a minion, even if it's garbage, is often enough to win the game. And for the first time, Elise gets aboard, it's going to be just blown up. So we're going to see some wrangling now over these reliquaries. I apologise for my pronunciation of reliquary. If you watch the Bunny Hopper match, you'll know that at some point I just can't say the word. Don't want to get it Shadow Madness and killed, because it is the best minion, or the Prime is the best minion in this mirror match. It is just incredibly hard to remove without having your own minions. And actually this time around I'm surprised that Galakond wasn't played. There seem to be no benefits of not playing it. Let's see what they are. Every time I've thought Yueying should do something else in this game so far, he has instantly shown me why I'm stupid. Trying to work out Doomsayer would be fun. Like, if you play Galakond Doomsayer next turn, clear your opponent's board, most likely, and tell them they can't have a board the turn after, and then you get to go first. Plays it immediately, which is interesting to me. 2 Galakonds now. At least he has his own Galakond if he wants to interpret this Doomsayer as a panicky manoeuvre. And of course he plays it immediately. This is the problem I have occasionally when I don't look at cards properly because they're in a language I don't speak. Of course that's how Dark Prophecy works, yeah? He doesn't get to keep the card, it's not a Discover card. I apologise for that. This is the part where I should probably tell somebody to hit the edit button. Oh no! Caster made a mistake. Shocker. But no, that's not me. Reducing the cost of this hand is a big deal. This is a lovely setup now. So all that early action has achieved seems like nothing, but it really isn't nothing. Yueying just has a better setup. He still has the tempo. Forget the fact there's only 7 effective damage being done. His hand is much cleaner, much easier to operate, and the second that Galakond gets played, he will be able to start generating minions. The Galakonds, by the way, when you want to know how their level is, it's not how many times you have invoked your Galakond. It is how many times the Galakond was invoked. So if you stole a Galakond that had been invoked 4 times, it would count as Super Galakond. Galakond number 1 taking the absolute clear. And doing a lot of damage in the process. And this time, this attack, which will be launched over several turns, it's never like a priest attack, is like a rumbling, slow process. It's not usually an explosive attack. But this attack over the next 3 or 4 turns looks like there's a very strong chance it will get there. Remember how much removal Lis used early in this game just to not die? He should be able, well, he is able to stay alive for a little while yet, but can he stay alive and counter-attack? Because that's what he needs to do right now. If you see him doing anything weird at any point, it'll be because he needs to generate a board as well as not die. Double Carj action if he wants to go with the Shadow Madness here. Does he feel he's got time to keep the other one back? He does. Okay, this is more like what I was expecting, to be honest. What's going on? Mind flares everywhere. So we've lost track of how good this Galakond is. And I'm not used to the writing whether it's fully invoked. But if it is, then Yueying could clear the board and get another weapon here. Just constant battering. Yueying, oh my goodness. Yueying in charge of everything, and as if he didn't need another Shadow Madness, he'd have one anyway. Very pleasant for him. Look at this nonsense now. And it's really just been, I want to call it a steamroller, but I mean steamrollers are slow, but this one's being pushed rather than driven along the road. It is just the slowest steamrolling ever. Yueying playing very precisely, and Lis just not having any choices. Yueying has taken away all Lis's options for the entirety of this game. And Lis will come away from this wondering what he did wrong, but I don't feel he did much wrong. I think he has just been up against somebody who has not let him play Hearthstone. And obviously some of that is draw dependent, but he gave himself every chance to be able to play some Hearthstone, but Yueying just wouldn't let him. Talking as if it's over, because it kind of is, but he is technically alive. It's the best sort of alive. But look at what's happening to the hand sizes slowly but surely here. Yueying has a Galakond in hand, he has a Galakond active, so there's a hero power active. It's borderline winning anyway. Everything is going his way here. The hard part is just keeping the concentration to find the best play every turn. There's easy parts everywhere. Throw out a Fate Reaver, Mass Dispel, off you go. You know, things like that. The hard part is making sure to keep getting efficiency when you're this close to winning. We have seen turnarounds in Priest Mirrors. Can happen. But once again, putting lethal on the board. And Lis now needs to Galakond. The problem with that is he needs to apotheosis on something, and if you're Galakonding, you're not apotheosising. But not dying is a thing. Oof. Setting up the maximum chance to not miss the Moazond here. If you're wondering what that weird play was, that makes sense. And I guess this is the one space where Yueying could blunder. Like, he needs to make the maximum threat right this turn. He's seen that Liss is desperate. He knows there's no Shadow of Death, so could throw out Katrina Morte here because he knows that there's no Shadow of Death. That last play was too desperate. And again, just now transitions kind of into the value game, although, as I said at the start, really, Yueying has been in front with the exception of one turn for the whole game. And that is telling in the hands now. It is no coincidence that he happens to have more cards in hand now. He's used his cards more efficiently, he's been the aggressor, and he's forced Liss into doing things like playing Penance on a 1-1. All those little tiny actions add up to this massive hand advantage. Looking like both these two teams will finish 7 and 4, which means that IG on 8 and 4 will win the phase. Still some matches left to come, of course, today. He's doing all he can to not die. It's been like this for turn after turn. Sort of at the risk of repeating myself now, really, but so I'm assuming that the second Galacon isn't maxed out, otherwise this is lethal, or so close to it I think he would do it. Fate Weaver number 500. Okay, let's see what you've got. Another Katrina? What would you like? Like, every turn, he has so many options available to him. I should probably be not trying to predict and instead just marvelling at all the options available. So, this would be lethal with the weapon, which I'm assuming is going to happen here. It was too much of a considered take on the Apotheosis. Yep, that's lethal damage. And Liss did not get to play much Hearthstone today, not because of bad draws, but because of Yueying's good play. And of course, Madame Lazul can't attack, so it's not lethal this turn. But really, it's lethal. Liss fighting to the very end. Of course you do. Wasn't recognised in Dark Prophecy, not for the first time this game, but in Gold in particular, not a card I've seen much. Card that gets played sometimes. It's just a reasonable card. So I've done the ending speech, I've done the middle speech, I've talked about how Yueying has played great all day. Tempted just to turn off the microphone and watch the end, to be honest. What a great match though from Yueying. Liss gives it up and goes to 7 and 5.